Kat, and this is Passion Project, the podcast about making things happen. And today's guest is David Hart. David Hart is a contemporary wisdom teacher, writer, and speaker living in Halifax, Nova Scotia. He was for many years the lead minister at Bedford United Church, one of the United Church of Canada's most progressive and inclusive congregations. David's compassion, teaching, and vision of the sacred has touched thousands of lives over the years. He is married to Danielle, has one daughter, Kinza, and messes with guitar in his spare time. He is also my dear brother-in-law. So welcome, David. I'm so excited to have you on the show today.
I'm delighted to be here, Catalina. And when you mention messes with guitar, you know me well, right? Because that's all I do.
That's okay.
I've been playing like for 35 years, and I'm still no rock star, but I like to pretend that I am.
You know what? That is the beauty of passion projects, is we get to mess around, you know, and then it becomes a thing, and then there's a little bit more obligation attached to it. So I love it. So this is your new passion project. Are you thinking about joining a band sometime? Are you jamming?
I've been jamming with a couple of bands, and I can hold my own, but I used to think that I would be a David Gilmour from Pink Floyd or Richie Blackmore from Deep Purple, but I've learned that I'm at a certain stage in the game where I'm gonna have to wait for another life for that to happen.
Yeah, or you got to do Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours, right? You're gonna have to like really, put that on ×1, ×2, ×3 on the record button. Yeah.
Exactly, but it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. That's so
I recently had to totally learn iMovie because I was working with a congregation, and with COVID-19, we had to put all our services online. So there are all sorts of young people and teenagers and whatnot I've known over the years who have been doing movies for YouTube and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I'd never done it, and like everybody else, I watched stuff on YouTube, but I never knew how it was done. So I had to learn how it was done from scratch.
Did Kinza help you? Could Kinza help you with that?
Yeah, she did. But it was stressful, but it was a pile of fun too. Just learning something entirely new, right? And now I've got this sense of I can be an editor and a producer, and I know how to make these movies.
I love that feeling. And it's the same like when I do my home movies with the kids, or even starting the podcast, I'm like, I have this new skill. Like this is, it opens a whole new world of possibility. Yeah. So, COVID, interesting. So you've been doing your speeches and stuff like in iMovie, and then you post it to YouTube and everything.
So what I was doing is I was working with a congregation. I had been at this church for 25 years and thought 25 was a good kind of mystical, spiritual number at which I should pass it over to somebody else.
Yeah.
And we turned over the leadership to a younger team. Mm-hmm. And but in the meantime, I've been still got this wisdom and this insight and ability, and I've been helping out some other congregations. So I went to help a couple of congregations that were in between ministers. Uh-huh. And COVID just happened during that time. Yeah. So I had to learn how to do all this online stuff, and that was kind of exciting. I got them all set up for that. And but now they've found somebody permanent, so I'm sort of in this in between zone once again. But I've had a number of passions throughout my life. Talking about a passion project, right?
Yeah.
And I'm at a point in my life. The really neat thing is where I don't have to work every kind of day. I don't have to do that sort of gig any longer. And I can really pursue my deepest passions and loves. And that's a really, really neat space to be in. And it comes to everybody. And I say to everybody all the time, you can do everything you want. You just can't do it all at once.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to wait for the seasons of your life, right, to come along. And there are certain seasons that allow you to pursue your passions. And sometimes you just have to wait a little while, but the time will come.
Yeah. And I mean, like you've been, I imagine what you do. You were kind of a coach before coaches. Life coaches are so huge right now.
Yes.
But maybe essentially what you've been doing all this time is coaching people toward their personal fulfillment and self-development and all that, really.
Yeah, and one of the gifts has been that over the years I've connected with so many people, and there's like there's 10 or 12 people in my life who I continue to coach, and we're friends, we've been colleagues, but they also look to me for that kind of a role to support
Yeah.
them and to sort of bounce ideas off and to figure out certain kinds of directions and how to fulfill parts of themselves that they wanted to do. So I continue to fulfill that role with them, and that gives me a lot of pleasure at this point in my life too.
Yeah, that's right. I just never thought about it that way till just now, but I'm like, yeah, you guys are like the life coaches before life coaches. And I guess in the work that you've done over the years too, like you've been privy to so many personal stories, you know what I mean? And I wanted to have you on the show for two reasons. One, because you're like one of the most joyful human beings on the planet. And I just get so excited and, energized around you. And and you've always been that way, even before I got to know you better. And then when I got to know you better and a little bit about where you were coming from, it just blew my mind that you could be the way you are today, having gone through some of the experiences that you had. So that brings me to the second reason I really wanted to have you on the show today was I kind of saw my next season of the podcast addressing resilience. And I don't know if every interview is really going to come to resilience, but I felt like that was just a really key theme I needed to take a few episodes to explore, because I thought it's really easy to ask a girl out if you're not that into her. It's really easy to go for a job if you're not really that into it. But for me personally, to do the things I've really wanted to do has been a fear that I might not be resilient to enough to withstand rejection letters or no's, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't know if I'd be able to pop back up again. And I think in order, what is it? There's some kind of formula or saying about entrepreneurs, serial entrepreneurs are the ones that have all the success because they do it again and again and again. They fail, and they pop back up, and eventually they have their success. But the one-off entrepreneur rarely makes it, rarely strikes gold. And so I guess I wanted to talk to you about resilience today, and what's the secret sauce? What's the magic formula so I can pass it on to my kids? You know what I mean? And what's your experience with resilience, and how did you build it or come to it?
Yeah. Well, that's a big question, and a super big topic.
Yeah.
But I think there probably are a number of commonalities that will run through people's lives. Part of the story that you're alluding to with myself was that I had two brothers who drowned when I was 5 years of age, right?
Yeah.
And so that was something I needed to deal with in my life. And then there were various other challenges and difficulties along my life journey as well, that I think have contributed to resilience.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the key things, and it's not so much a thing that we are responsible for, but it's something that you are responsible for with your kids, right?
Yeah.
Is that, I often say to people that the closest we get to God on this earth is with our moms. But it's a really, so moms, and it can be dads too, but I'm a little bit more specific with mothers, right?
Yeah.
Because when you think about it, it's mothers who give us life, right? Yeah. And it's mothers and fathers as well, but it's mothers who give us life and who are often the principal nurturers of us in our life. So whether you've adopted a child or not, you may not have given the initial life to that child, but you give life ongoing to that child in the process of raising them, right? Yeah. And so I was blessed with a mother who, she had lost two sons, and that was absolutely crushing. And we can talk about her resilience in a little bit around that too, right?
Yeah.
Like what enabled her to bounce back from that. But one of the gifts that she gave to me was this absolute unconditional love. Well, it wasn't always totally unconditional. It was like she was a demanding mom, mm-hmm. and a challenging mom, but she loved me to the nth degree, and she had this absolute faith in me that I could accomplish whatever I wanted to accomplish in life. And I think,
Powerful combo.
oh, it is. And I think, when I think about my mom, what does resilience need? Resilience needs a belief in oneself that when we fall on our faces, there's no fault in falling on our faces, but you alluded to it, right? We got to be able to get back up, right? And we got to have confidence in ourselves. We have to have belief in ourselves that we can get back up on our feet and go at whatever life is giving us once again, right?
Yeah.
And getting that kind of messaging from your mom and your dad and whoever. I always say, whether it's a mom, whether it's a dad, every child needs to have one person in their life who absolutely loves them and believes in them totally, right? And I think that in itself makes a huge difference. And my mom, so my mom is no longer alive, but I still think of my mom as my guardian angel out there, right? And I still pass love to her in my times of metta and meditation every day. I share my love with her, and I invoke her blessing on my life. And I'm I can't scientifically prove it to you, but I'm pretty sure she's there. So having that capacity to believe in ourselves, and that's, if you haven't got that from someone in your life at a young age, a lot harder to find it, right?
Right. Yeah.
A lot harder to find it, and then you need, you need to get in touch with the child within yourself. That if you haven't gotten that as a child, you need to get in touch with the child in yourself and find a way to affirm that child and make sure that they know they are loved and lovable and capable, and can handle what life brings them, right?
Yeah. And one of the things I kind of have struggled with as a parent, like you have like this, you want to protect your kids. We are especially this helicopter generation, hovering over our kids. But I wonder sometimes, which is not to say that, knock on wood, which is not to say that they will not have challenges in their life, but, in the challenges in my life, I acknowledge that they may be stronger. I've been tested and I came through it, and same with my family. And so I wonder, with people who have not been tested, who have been bubble wrapped or protected, can they be building a resilience, or is resilience forged in the fire? And, the bigger the fire, the more resilient. I don't know. You know what I mean?
So there you have a brilliant title for a book. For your next book, Catalina, you have a brilliant title, or for this podcast, Forged in the Fire, right? It's brilliant. And isn't it true? I think you're absolutely right. If I always say that larger successes and accomplishments are built on previous smaller successes and accomplishments, right? And so our children, yes, they need to face challenges. They need to have responsibilities. They need to have difficulties and hardships. And ideally that are kind of tailored to their age and capacity. But to totally protect them all the time isn't healthy for them either, right? They do need to be challenged. They need to experience failure, but they also need to experience, in the arms of someone loving, the capacity to bounce back. That's what we were talking about, coaching, right? That's what coaching is, right? When you're coaching with somebody, you encourage them to do something. They go out, they either succeed or they fail, but then they come back and there's somebody who can kind of nurture them and support them and encourage them to go back out and do it again. And eventually what happens is you find your own inner coach, right? That's kind of part of the spiritual journey, is finding your own inner coach. The voice inside your head and in your heart that says, I know, even though I may have blown it this time, that I can come back and I can get back on my feet and I can go out there again and I can succeed, right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Let me tell you about another thing my mom blessed me with. All right?
Tell me about your mom. I love mom's stories. I love moms.
So when my mom and dad lost two boys, so my two brothers had gone out on a hike one day, and actually my mother asked my older brother said to my mom, I'm going out for a hike with some friends. Can you make me a lunch? And she said, sure. And then my younger brother, my middle brother, was just hanging around bored, and my mom said, Kai, why don't you take Roger with you? And, he sort of did what an older kid kind of, oh, do I have to, for God's sakes? But he said, all right. So they're going out the door, Kat, and they're walking out the door. And what does mom say to my older brother? What would you say to
after your younger brother?
Look after your younger brother, right? Mm-hmm. And so my brother said he was just going out for a hike, but he didn't tell my mom the whole story. He was out with some other boys, and they were crossing a lake on a raft, and the raft started sinking. It was in May. It was cold weather. A bunch of them fell in the lake. My older brother swam to shore, and he looked around and said, where's Roger, my younger brother? Mm-hmm. And what does he hear in his head? Look after your older brother. So he swims back out to the lake. His brother was still in the lake, and they both drowned, along with another boy. Right?
Oh my God.
That was totally devastating. Yeah. Totally devastating for my parents. And what got my mom through it was her faith.
Yeah.
Her faith that there was, even in this kind of tragedy and in this kind of moment, that there was a larger purpose to life, a larger meaning in life, and that there was a larger love undergirding life.
Yeah.
And that larger love, we call it God, we call it the sacred, we call it the divine, call it what have you, that my two brothers' lives were still contained within that larger life, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what gave my mom hope and strength in the midst of just one of the darkest moments of her life. Yeah. And so she passed on to me also this, because that was a tragic time for me too. And what I gained out of that time was a seeking after and a yearning for the love that will never leave us. Yeah. We all go through divorces. We go through separations. We lose kids. And I had experienced that loss at the age of 5 in a profound way. And I had to come to terms with that in therapy years later. Like, I was so mad that my brothers had deserted me, right? And left me all alone. It's like, wow. That's another feeling, right? We can talk about that.
Yeah.
So my mom, but that's what started me off. And I think so many people today are on a spiritual journey. Yeah. And it may not be traditional, go to church on Sunday mornings kind of spiritual journey, although lots of people do. But the spiritual journey is ultimately about seeking the love that never leaves us.
Isn't
it true? It's seeking the life that surrounds us and lies at the heart of all our lives. And that no matter what kind of loss life can give us, if we feel connected with that larger life, then we can prevail in the face of whatever loss. Mm-hmm. So that brings us back to resilience.
Yeah, yeah.
If you feel connected with however you name it, whatever word you use, doesn't matter, and whatever religious background you come from, Hindu or Buddhist or whatever, if you feel connected with the deepest source of life, and you know yourself to be a part of that source of life, and you feel loved by it, and you know you are lovable, then you can overcome anything in life. And that's less the self-help type of resilience and whatnot, but I think underneath every strategy or self-help book or coach that'll teach you, the ultimate source of resilience is to find that sort of place inside of you where you feel connected with the very heart of life itself, and where you feel loved and part of that. And then you know that no matter what mistakes you make in life, and I've made lots of mistakes in my life, we all do, no
Yeah.
matter, yeah, no matter what mistakes you make in life, no matter how you screw up in life sometimes,
Yeah.
um, you are ultimately a part of a much larger life that loves you and cares for you and wants the best for you, right? So
Yeah.
that's that's another part of the resilience equation. It seems to me that's an important one, right? So my mother gave me two gifts. She gave me the gift of her love, and she gave me the gift of God's love.
Yeah.
And those two gifts in itself have just been wonderful. And then there's all sorts of other practical things, but that's another story.
Do you
Yeah.
feel, is that the source of your joy, where your joy comes from, overflowing from?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I I'm probably um I'm probably constitutionally blessed with happy genes as well, and not tight genes, happy genes. Right? So, so I'm probably constitutionally blessed with some happy genes,
Yeah.
but you know, joy. It's interesting to talk about happiness and joy as well. Um, the joy that's a part of my life comes out of this deep sense of connection with the
Mm.
heart of life. Um, and I can be quiet. People sometimes say I'm an extrovert, you know, and I talk, but I go on these 10-day retreats where you can't say a word, right? You're not allowed to say a single word, right? Um, and where you're quiet for 10 days and sometimes and 20 days and 30-day retreats as well. And um, and so you're not always talking and you're not always in an emotional kind of hyped up state, right? There's a kind of a very level, serene kind of place of being, but it's what leads to the joyfulness and the happiness is a sense of inner certainty. It's a sense of absolute confidence. Yeah, it's a
Mm.
sense of absolute confidence that I belong in the world. I've been put here by the source of life, that the universe isn't some cold, heartless place where, you know, that it's just a materialistic kind of domain and we're all just floating in the midst of infinity,
Mm.
that we're actually rooted in home right in this point in time.
Mm.
And out of that comes a deep sense of peacefulness, and that leads to joy, right?
Mm.
That can also express an emotional joy. But
Yeah.
I can be quiet, I can be serene, I can be still, but I
Yeah.
can also be incredibly happy, right? And
Yeah.
there's a freedom that comes out of that too, right? There's
Yeah.
a lovely freedom. One of my exercises when I do on group workshops
Mm.
is I'll take the group out after our first evening together, and I'll take us out underneath the moon or under the stars at night, and I'll get us all to howl at the moon, right? Right? And
Yeah.
it's something because we all live these kinds of
Yes.
very constrained and
Yes.
and socially proper kinds of lives,
Yeah.
right? And just to feel that sense of freedom of belonging, right?
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. In so much self-imposed
Hmm.
boundaries and limiting beliefs and all of that. Um, I know somebody was interviewing me about joy, and for me, it was like so much of the passion project really came through. Like, just doing what you love and um, play, a sense of play. Before the
Yeah.
passion project becomes like a career or now a business, it's that sense of adventure and play. And I know we had a pre-chat about today's call before, and I wrongly assumed that your passion project was your job, was that your passion was um preaching. I don't know if I'm using the right word because I'm so
Work.
illiterate when
Yeah,
it comes to
yeah,
religion,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I thought that was because you were so happy and you're so joyful. I thought you were doing what you were meant to do on this earth, and then you totally blew my mind. That was
What
not exactly your passion project, that it was something else.
what is our passion? What should be our passion project, Kat? Our passion project should be to to discover the deepest impulse that life, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, has placed in our hearts and souls and beings, and to live out that particular kind of potentiality. And it's often combined with skill sets, but skills can be developed as well, right? But what is it within your heart that really, that causes you to get up in the morning, right? That gives you a sense of joy, that releases your energy, right? It's too many people live their lives, and you know, it's unfortunate, but it's true that lots of people have to work at jobs that aren't particularly fulfilling. So but everybody can find if you find the passion, everybody can find a place in their life where they can express that passion. It doesn't have to be in work. For lots of people, it's not in work, right? If the two can combine, as it did in my life, that's wonderful. But my passion was never to be a minister in the United Church of Canada. My passion was to really know and experience this reality that is at the heart of everything, right? And you know, it's the Buddha went off to experience enlightenment, and Jesus went into the wilderness, and that was kind of my passion too. And it had nothing to do with titles or jobs or anything like that. It was really to know deeply. And maybe that passion emerged as a result of my brother's death. I don't know that, right? That might have been what evoked that passion, but everybody has one. I also have a passion for music, and I'm not great at it, but and I know lots of people who certainly can't make a career, can't make a living off of music, but they express that passion in all sorts of wonderful ways, and they share it as a gift with other people too, right? So
it's the expression of you, I guess, whatever that is.
Whatever it is. And can we I think resilience too is tied into all of that, right? It's if you find that expression of you, as you say, what it is that you're all about, what you're really meant to be, your sense of confidence and your sense of well-being and your sense of living your destiny will come into play. And that gives you the capacity to rise above what other struggles and dilemmas might come in your life, right?
So where is your passion project taking you next? I think you mentioned to me deep space before, but
I joke about inner space exploration.
Inner space,
And I'm sort of at a point in life where I've done the outer space exploration in the sense of living my life fully in the world, and career and parenting and volunteering and all that sort of thing. And this point in my life, although I still do coaching with people, I do a lot of supporting of people, I have some causes that I'm committed to as well. The real passion of my life is that going very, very deep. And I've encountered a form of Buddhist meditation called Vipassana meditation, which is kind of a bodily focused meditation that leads you into experiencing your body as energy. You know that ultimately the whole world is just energy, right? What we call the material world isn't really the material world, or the material girl is really an energizer bunny, right? The whole world is actually an energetic construct. And this form of meditation leads one very, very deeply into an experiential sense of oneself being energy. And ultimately, the universe is a construct of energy and intelligence. And so that's just, can you see my eyes?
I love it.
I also love music, and I do music, and I do lots of things, and working out, and like I say, still some coaching and maybe a little bit of writing too. But it's this.
You've written a few books. You've written a couple books, and you see one maybe in now with your sort of new direction and your new explorations, something coming from that?
Yeah, it could be. I think at this point in my life, um, it's important as a writer,
Mm-hmm.
um, to have something to say, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've said a lot of what I've needed to say, but it feels to me at this point in my life where if I write again, it has to come out of a deeper experiential um, place that is actually true for me, so that I can articulate it, right?
Yeah.
So it's this deep kind of inner exploration that will probably lead to some writing again at some point as well. So yeah,
I'm looking forward to it.
I'll look forward to having a good agent next time.
Yes.
You just got an agent. You're doing great. I
Yeah.
look forward to
Yeah.
reading
I
your
got
book.
some connections. I'll hook you up now. So David, so you've got like you're doing some YouTubes. Like, can people find you online anywhere, or you have the website?
Yeah, David J. H. Hart.
Okay.
I don't have a website at the moment, but I've had some YouTubes online. But Kat, I'm not. Everybody is online these days. It's not really at this point in time where my head is at, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm more when the it's not what I want any longer. It really feels to me, and in my meditation, and I often start my meditation with the words, "This isn't my life. This is your life." And you need to do with this life what you want to do with this life.
Oh my God, I'm gonna get
And
chills.
and when you know, and when you're ready for this life to express or articulate outwardly again, it
Mm.
will happen. But at the moment, I feel like the deeper life is drawing me in an experiential journey to know that connection with the divine more and more profoundly. And when that happens, then it'll flip at some point and go
Yeah.
out. But at this point in time, it's more of that kind of journey.
Yeah. It is always so fascinating to chat with you. Like, we can do this all day. Maybe next time I'll bring you on, or you can guide us on a meditation or something. That could be
Oh, I'd
really
love
cool.
to. I'd love
Yeah.
to. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, David. Thank you so much for sharing your story and your heart and um, all the deep thoughts and wise words. Thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Just one last word, if I may,
Yeah.
just for everyone who's watching.
Yes.
Um, Absolutely never forget or doubt that every single one of you, including you, Catalina, you are an expression of the life that has given life to the universe. You are an expression of the sacred power and energy of God's own being. And if you know that deeply, and if you can feel that deeply and profoundly within yourself, there's nothing life can send your way that can overcome you.
That's beautiful.
How's that?
Thank you so much.
Love you.
Thank you. I love you too. Thank you so much for being here. Don't go. I'm going to chat with you, but I'll stop recording. Thank you. Thanks, David. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. And we'll see you next time.
Namaste.